As we discussed in earlier videos, guard is a fundamental part of Jiu Jitsu. It's important to be able to develop a guard that is safe but also dangerous. Let's go over some key concepts of how we can develop a safe guard. These are concepts that I learned from my coaches, Nick Sals and Danny Myra, and I used to develop my guard as I was advancing up in the belts. So the first concept that I want to introduce is something that we call the danger zone. When I'm playing supine guard, I want to keep my feet up in front of me and my opponent. This space in between my feet is something that we call the danger zone. The reason we call it that is because if my opponent were to drive forward at any time, she would just fall into my guard. One drill that we can work on with tracking our opponent is having our opponent circle, and we can track her with our guard. Just trying to keep our guard in between me and my opponent. When you do this drill, you may have noticed whether or not you keep your feet up towards your opponent, or perhaps you let them drop down. We actually want to keep our feet up so we can use them as frames. I just used the word frames. Now let's dive into the frames concept. If my opponent were to drive forward into me, I can keep my feet up and get connected to her and use these as frames to control the distance. So as my opponent circles, if she were to crash in, I can put my frames up and connect to her. The opposite of a frame is a hook. So as my opponent comes in, if I don't want her to get away from me, I can start adding hooks. This will keep her connected to me. The final concept I want to introduce is something that we call the pass box. When I'm playing guard, there's this space here between my knee and my elbow. This is what we call the pass box. I want to protect this space at all costs. If I were to keep it open, Bailey could just step right in and she's very close to passing my guard. So when Bailey is going to pass my guard, I want to keep this space closed and keep it protected at all times. So if she were to circle, I'm keeping this space closed. Next, let's work on some drills on how we can reinforce this. So the first pass that we'll look at is when my partner grabs my ankles. When my opponent comes in, she might put both of her hands on my ankles. From there, she's going to start to circle around. I want to think about 1, keeping my pass box closed. 2, to stop her from passing any further, I'm going to start installing frames. I want to keep my frames straight and in alignment so I can keep my partner away. From here, next I want to pummel my feet. So I can go ahead and pummel my feet, and then I'm going to square up my guard. Let's go through that one more time. My partner puts her hands on my ankles. She's going to circle to the side. I want to keep my pass box closed and put my frames up. Sometimes I might feel like I can't pummel my feet right away. If that's the case, that's okay. I can square up first. This will take her frames out of alignment, and then I should be able to pummel my feet and square up my guard. The next drill we'll go through is when my partner comes in with a hand on hip. We're going to apply a lot of the same concepts here. We still want to keep our pass box closed. We're getting our frames up to keep our partner away. And next I'm going to want to install another frame. If it's available, I can frame on the near shoulder. If she's closing that space by keeping her head tight, I can come here to replace the frame on the far shoulder. Once I'm here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm pummeling my feet and I'm squaring back to guard. Now, if you're working through these with a partner, once you kind of get the hang of it, you can have your partner start to chain these different passes together. This will help you to work on recognizing the different types of passes they might be throwing at you and making sure you're applying the right answers to get your guard back.